Ooh, the other thing, if we keep this pod under an hour, I can actually release it to more places. So that's goal. Less than an
Good.
hour.
Let's do it.
This is Screenslush, an unhealthy mix of film, TV, and everything pop culture.
Welcome to Screenslush. I just realized that everyone probably heard us talking about keeping it under an hour. Right?
Yeah, we were recording.
Okay.
Well, hey, little peek behind the curtains.
Yeah.
Never hurt anybody.
You know what we're doing? We're warming up for when we are Oscar telecast producers and we need to budget the time, be like, oh my God, play that guy off before he says thank you to his family. Or
exactly.
And
the second person who won wants to talk. Cut him. No. Play him off.
Oh, Kimmel wants to do his joke, so you gotta.
Oh shit! Kimmel's riffing. Don't let him talk.
We got to get closer into Lady Gaga's face. We want to just only see her
even closer
eyeball.
Pores. That's it. That's all we want to see.
Welcome to Screenslush. We're obviously talking about the Oscars. This is our Oscar recap. So we're going to be talking about the show in general. Some surprises, because there definitely were some. There was a lot of drama. Maybe some onstage violence this year. Brad? I don't know. No, there wasn't. Okay.
You said there was some drama. And listen, there was like classic Oscar-y drama of like, oh, that one? But it was like, it was a satisfyingly kind of classic, boring in a good way, Oscar ceremony, I think. And we'll probably talk our general thoughts and stuff, but yeah, nothing too crazy in a good way, you know.
My name's Emmanuel.
Oh, I'm Brent.
I forgot that these are public releases now. So it's not only our Patreon people that love us and know us, they know our faces and our voices. But
yeah, we can't just, you're telling me we can't just riff on blenders for 10 minutes and just expect people to enjoy it?
Nobody knows what that's like, but I guess we should start that way. What did you think of the telecast? I guess you already kind of talked a little bit about how much this felt like a palate cleanser. And quite honestly, if you compared it to last year, it would seem boring just because it was not, 30 minutes. Yeah, we're not like worried about what's about to happen, or if it's just way less stressful, which I appreciate. But I do assume there are some people who just wanted more, I don't know, wild stuff, more quote unquote live TV moments. I don't know what they would want, but Brent, what did you think about this show in general? Kimmel, there was an Air Force jet fly over the
to start the show,
the Dolby Center. It
was a wild way to kick things off. I half expected Cruise to be in there, but flying the damn plane. But no, I think it was honestly a pretty great Oscar ceremony. I think it's, I don't know. I think most of the tweaks that they made this year improved the show. I think like they put all the categories back in the show. Kimmel, mentioned that like it was, due to public demand after them cutting it, just put them all in the show. I think they did some really cool stuff for some of the like non-actor, like best picture categories and stuff, essentially the craft categories, to like help, people who don't know a ton about the process of making movies to kind of understand like what kind of goes into this job, like they had the costumes. And
let's be honest, when Michael B. Jordan, Jonathan Majors were describing to us what cinematography was, most people weren't paying attention. They were just drooling, baby.
They couldn't get enough of those.
You got Creed and Kang up there mansplaining to us. Hell yeah.
More of that. Let them both host next year. That's great. But no, I think it was an excellent show. I think my biggest takeaway, the thing I enjoyed most about it, is that there was just this like air of positivity throughout the whole show. Like not even positivity, but just like optimism almost. And like a love of, I don't know, it just seemed like every winner was up there and was emotional, and everybody in the audience was like so excited for, it seems like, every movie that was nominated. And you could just like feel that in the environment, like in the theater they were all in. And that's just kind of like that's a great vibe for the Oscars that just made it feel like what I think they want it to feel like. They want people to feel like, oh man, I love the movies. All these people love the movies. We love the movies, like
Yeah.
it. And in that sense, I think it was like a huge success.
It's Hollywood's biggest night. And there may not have been, I think, Harrison Ford. I don't want to go down the list. There are a lot of big celebrities there. Maybe, though, less than previous years where it was just filled with A-listers, sometimes not even connected to film, but are there.
Yeah.
But it was a lot of the kind of love for cinema, but just so many great storylines. And I think a big part of that is this idea that a lot of the nominees individually were first-time nominees this year. There was like a record, I think, right? Like over 20 first-time nominees. And so many of them won, capping off a great award season, but also just like great career cappers. Because, I mean, you got Brendan Fraser, Kiku Kwan, Michelle Yeoh, Sarah Polley, the Daniels, even Jamie Lee Curtis. Like, it's all of these people with either great personal stories or, great careers. And then, even from people that didn't win, like Angela Bassett, Colin Farrell, kind of some, Paul Mescal. It was just nice to also be there and celebrate even just that accomplishment. So, yeah, pretty interesting stuff.
Yeah.
We got a donkey on stage.
Yep.
Malala got a question. Like, there's a lot of weird stuff. And I think that, we talked about Jonathan Majors and Michael B. Jordan talking about cinematography, but we also got like Cocaine Bear. Like, we also had stuff that were, I think they were definitely trying out a lot of different things. It wasn't like it was all one.
It wouldn't be
tone.
the Oscars if every joke hit. It wouldn't be. Like, you have to get a Cocaine Bear up there and like Elizabeth Banks doing her best, but like her voice is gone. I think just like she looks over it and it's just like very funny. Yeah.
The only moments I think that some people thought were semi-controversial, and I would also caveat this by saying, like, again, compared to last year, this is nothing. But Disney played a Little Mermaid commercial. That wasn't a huge big deal to me. They were paying like $100 million for the damn show. Give them one, let them do something. And make it seem like it's worth it.
Honestly, and it makes sense to me. Like, I understand that it's like a ceremony to award movies and etc. Right? Like, I get that, but it also makes sense to me to, if you want more people to watch it, then you do need to have kind of like a bit of that Super Bowl component where it's like you are going to premiere some things, premiere a trailer or something. Maybe it would have been better like if it was just a commercial that played during the show instead of like internally, which apparently they didn't even play the trailer in the room.
Yeah.
They played like some other reel of something and it was just for people at home, which I find very funny. But yeah, I don't know. Yeah, that stuff. And then the WB ad.
Warner Brothers got a shout out. Disney did for their 100th. And I think I texted you too. I was like, oh, when is Universal's and Paramount's? Didn't happen, but it's interesting. I mean, but we assume it's going to be a celebration of all movies. So having it's just weird because I don't see another competing studio wanting to like promote ABC. Does that make sense? If like Universal said the trailer for Jurassic World is going to be coming out during the Oscars, but they also have NBC, they have their own stuff, like they have Sunday Night Football, I think they'd be like, well, we would rather just put it on our thing, but we'll see. I'm sure they're messing with it, and I don't know. Like it's getting really close to them straight up selling ad time and stuff like in the show. But part of me thinks, and this is a broader thing, and we're going to talk about the winners here in a bit because it's mostly about them. But there's a lot of people who think it should just be online, streaming only, or like the other shows that have kind of stopped being on linear TV. But I cannot stress enough, this is 80% of the Academy's money comes from this one show on ABC. And if you want them to put it on YouTube, they're going to lose $120 million a year because there's no way they're going to make that from YouTube. Netflix is not going to give them that much money, to have the Oscars on the Netflix app or whatever. And in fact, I think that may be even worse than just having a commercial for Little Mermaid.
Well,
now you need Netflix.
and I was even just thinking like a second ago, like, oh man, it'd be really neat if it was on Disney and or Hulu.
Yeah.
But it's also like, but then again, like, yeah, you're still not really, that's not going to result in ABC Disney making more money, at all. So I don't know.
And then we're releasing this pretty close to when they announced the ratings. Ratings were up this year from last year, which is good. They sold out of their commercials this year, which is good. So in terms of the money, I think the Academy is fine. Okay, let's talk about the winners. Just top line, Everything Everywhere All at Once.
Yep.
One of the most awarded movies in the history of the Academy, the 95-year history, actually has the most above the line awards of any movie. It ties Streetcar Named Desire and Network for most acting wins. And it is the most Oscar wins of any film since Slumdog Millionaire. And quite honestly, dominated the whole award circuit, which is a huge feat considering it came out over a year ago at South by Southwest. And some of these people have probably seen this movie 2 or 3 times by now. And I think that's ultimately, let's talk about the other. All Quiet won 4. The Whale won, Brendan Fraser won. Avatar, Top Gun all took some craft awards. RRR took some craft awards. Elvis, The Fabelmans, Banshees, Shut Out, Women Talking with Sarah Polley won. There's a lot of great things that we'll talk about here in detail. But I think my big takeaway this year is if you want to win the Oscars nowadays in this kind of age, you need people to watch your movie. And I feel like because it was out for a year, a lot of people were able to watch Everything Everywhere All at Once. And it solidified, almost calcified the idea that they were the best movie of last year. And one of the surprises of the night, All Quiet on the Western Front, same thing. That was on Netflix during all of voting. And so my assumption is like people needed to pick an international film, and with RRR on Netflix and All Quiet, they were able to watch those movies. And all these other movies that released exclusively in theaters or aren't even on streaming still now didn't have a great showing. But part of me was like, well, if you were wanting people to log on to like a screener thing, it's sometimes much harder than just throwing up Hulu or whatever. You need your movie needs to be there if you want to win, because then these Oscar voters' family have seen the movie and they're telling them about them. And it's not like only people with their screening app, have access. And so it's less and less people watching these movies. Same with like Pinocchio. All the big winners were able to be seen everywhere.
Yeah. I mean, it's that ease of access for a lot of them. And it's like, the thing is, Everything Everywhere, it wasn't even, and still is not like free anywhere. Like you still have to rent it. I think, man, that movie's run is such a bizarre, kind of incredible miracle run of a movie where, you're right. Like it was out for a year, essentially over a year, came out, got great word of mouth, and then just like grew and grew and grew and kind of pulled a like Avatar of the indie realm, essentially with its kind of like week to week box office stuff. And it's still, it's still, I was reminded last night that it is still certainly not for everyone. Like I was talking to my stepdad, and him and my mom tried to watch it, and they were like, we turned it off after like 20 minutes. We had no clue what was happening. It was way too much. And it's like, that does very much kind of signal a like generational shift a little bit, possibly. Like they made a movie that is very much feels like for our generation and potentially younger. in a lot of ways. It's very fast. It's very like you just got to keep up with it and kind of like process information the way that our generation processes information. But yeah, it's just that more that that impressive that like it still isn't a movie for everyone, but like the people that see it and love it really, really love it and will tell everybody they know to check it out.
I think we did that when we watched. I think we pressured
Yeah.
our friends to watch that movie.
Certainly, yeah.
Because to your argument, they're younger people in my family don't go to the movies and heard about this movie after its like 6th week run.
Yeah.
Watched it, super affected by it. Some people, this is the best movie they've seen the entire year. And then also like, it's very original. It is kind of couched in a huge genre type movie, but it also addresses like the anxiety of maybe our generation after COVID, after, all this political stuff. The movie is about focusing on what's important. And I do feel like that may be why it's an experience for a lot of people in the generation that has experienced all of this in like 5 years or something.
Yeah.
And they're like, whoa, this is, and then I think it's like the Pulp Fiction for the next generation of filmmakers, like just to push the envelope of what successful cinema is in terms of the form. I think people who, didn't know they wanted to make movies might have seen that and be like, oh, shoot, like, yeah, maybe I can, have these certain kinds of things happen. And I equated to Pulp Fiction because when I watched Pulp Fiction, I was like, oh, you don't need to tell a story in order. You don't need like there, like all
There's
of that
a
stuff.
list of things that you don't have to do to make a movie that's amazing. You're totally right. Like that is a great comparison. And I think we were talking the other night when we saw Scream, and there were like 2 or 3 trailers for movies that are
doing the same thing,
kind of a similar thing. And it's funny because it's like this movie is incredibly original. I only say similar in that it's so off the wall and interesting looking, and the kind of tonal jumps that Everything Everywhere kind of pulls off. It feels like, it may have opened the floodgates for like a new kind of like information overload type of movie, which I think is awesome. I think that's really cool. I think we have room for All Quiet on the Western Front and movies like Everything Everywhere. Like it's a variety of all these different kinds of things. So
the Daniels are great. Look, I think you could tell in the room that everyone was on board with Everything Everywhere. The Daniels were great. They did a great job for the multiple times they were on that stage. I think a total of maybe 3 times, giving speeches about, their personal inspirations, all that stuff, because they ended up winning for writing and directing and Best Picture. And then there's a couple big Everything Everywhere moments. Oh, man, actually every time they're on stage, because Ke Huy Quan, what did you think of that speech? He was kind of maybe the darling of the entire award season, and he had that he reunited with Harrison Ford for Best Pick, but he's got to be one of the and I think they knew that when they kicked the show off with his Oscar.
Yeah, I think that I think it was like what, Oscar number 2 or 3. Like Pinocchio was 1, and I want to say that was like 2.
Yeah.
I mean that I think went a long way to really cementing the atmosphere of kind of positivity and like love for the movies and things like that I think they wanted to imbue the show with, because it's like, I mean, that guy is his energy is magnetic, and it's just I think I saw a tweet last night that put it really well. It's like, sure, I think a lot of us can agree that the Oscars don't matter, but when you see Ke Huy Quan on stage giving a speech, you don't really give a shit about that. Like it was better worded than that, but like I think that's right, man. It's like it really hits home. Like, oh yeah, this can be a really important thing. Like especially with like Quan and even Frazier too. It's like these guys who were in so many different kinds of ways, kind of down and out, and kind of like out of the industry, for lengths of time, and went through their kind of dark periods. But it's just really, really cool to have, like those 2 guys specifically, I think win. Really cool.
Yeah, I think similar to Michelle Yeoh, who had kind of a really long journey, a legend in Hollywood. Now this, and I think we were both worried that we saw Halle Berry on the presenter list because we had flashbacks, traumatic flashbacks of Chadwick
Yeah.
Boseman's, assumed win as they saved that for the very last Oscar.
Oh my God.
They had his
Yeah.
wife. It was just a mess. And Halle Berry and Jessica Chastain on stage, I was like, oh my God, because Halle Berry, she won for Monsters Ball in 2006. Halle Berry was the first person of color to win Best Actress. And I was like, okay, they know that. That's why she's there.
What if Halle Berry ended up presenting the award to Andrea Riseborough? And it was just like, oh.
The two Leslie, it's crazy to me that everyone was kind of scared to make two Leslie jokes, but would make Scientology jokes, make fun of Banshees and Irish. But the two Leslie, they were like, ooh, touchy.
Dude, can I just say another behind the scenes real quick thing about last night is at some point during the show, I realized that you guys were ahead of me. I didn't pause or anything at any certain point, but I don't know, like your guys' feed was like 15, maybe 20 seconds ahead.
I was using the pool feed. I was watching the cameras. I had all 17 feed. Academy cameras pulled up.
And I was very concerned for a second because it was they were about to present Best Actress, and then I think somebody, maybe even you, said WTF, and then you said to Leslie, and then a bunch of exclamation points. And I was like, no, are you fucking kidding me? And then you were like, yes, and I was like, okay, so it's not going to be that. But I was very concerned for like 5 seconds.
I know. But don't worry. It was exactly, I think, what everyone had, what we predicted, and what kind of broke the internet was Michelle Yeoh. She won the first the first Asian to win that award. She gave a shout out to her mom, who is still alive, which was kind of surprising to me. And then pictures from the AP showed her mom watching the Oscars, and I was like, "That's wild! So cool. What a cool thing." Keiko Kwan also the same thing. But what do you think about Michelle Yeoh's win? It seemed there's a lot of love for the picture that's Jessica Chastain, Halle Berry, and Michelle Yeoh walking off stage with the Oscar, and I was like, "Man, this is kind of a cool moment."
I think it's an amazing win, man. I think she's incredible in Everything Everywhere All at Once, and has to do so many. The balancing act that, I mean, most of the cast has to do, but especially her as the lead performer, to play this one type of person, but that can easily kind of switch into these different gears. It's kind of why her and Ki Kwan won. Like, man, the performances they had to give, but it's and it's also just like an amazing honorary without the honorary. Like, she won it for a specific thing, like Oscar, for just like an amazing body of work over like decades.
It's cool because it is a sort of acknowledgement of her very, very long career, in which she was underestimated for the majority of it, even when she was in Hong Kong doing kung fu movies, where they were like, no, a woman can't do these movies, and then coming to the Hollywood and being a Bond girl and having all of that work. But it's also for maybe her best and biggest role. So it's like a combination of the two, which rarely happens at the Oscar. It's always sometimes either or. It's like the best role this actress has ever played, but we don't ever see them again. Or it's, we didn't give it to you so long ago, so we're giving it to you now, but we know you had a powerhouse performance a decade ago, that should have won.
Right. Yeah.
And it kind of is a combination for Michelle Yeoh, which is, again, like super rare for it to happen.
Yeah. And when you were talking about that, it made me think of another way to describe this Oscars that I don't really usually feel about the Oscars. And that is like, this is going to sound dismissive and rude potentially. I hope it doesn't, but like, common sense wins.
Yeah.
In terms of like, oh yeah, like Michelle Yeoh was incredible in that. She's like a great actress who's never won, and it would make sense for her to win. She won. Everyone's happy. And it's like, there's just usually this disconnect between like, well, we all know
something to get mad about
performance, but then Green Book wins, and you're like,
oh man,
what the fuck happened? You're trying to like make sense of it, and then there's not a lot of making sense of wins from last night. In my opinion, like I was starting to get a little irritated with how much All Quiet was winning, and maybe a
We'll
little.
talk
scared,
about. I mean, well, we could. Well, let's stick with acting. Best supporting actor. So Kiku Kwan won. We kind of knew that. Brendan Fraser won. I had thought Austin Butler was going to win that award, and you correctly predicted Brendan Fraser. Great moment, and also maybe there's a broader Elvis thing going on when we talk about crafts and just how powerful maybe it wasn't. And then Michelle Yeoh. But what do you think about Best Supporting Actress? Angela Bassett, we both picked, but it seemed like there was a lot of momentum behind Carrie Condon and Jamie Lee Curtis, who won SAG. And this was maybe one of the first surprises of the night because Angela Bassett sitting in the front row, expected to be nominated to win, partially because of her the legacy she's left behind across her career. But I mean, I think I texted you all this, and I was like really second guessing us picking her on our Oscar ballot just because you're not supposed to give too much credit to these anonymous ballots. But there was a lot of not hate, but a lot of people who just did not want MCU acting win. Like people who are like, she did great, she has a great career, but a Marvel movie is not where you showcase it. Like that's just what they would say. And I was like, oh, this is pervasive. Like there's a lot of people who just don't want an MCU
in the Academy
thing going on. But what do you think about Jamie Lee Curtis winning and giving a shout out to, I guess, like genre? And John Carpenter tweeted about her too, which is kind of
cool. Know. Yeah, that was really cool. Dude, I think it's pretty awesome. I think I have to kind of separate, like, do I think she was the one who kind of deserved to win for the performance she gave? Mm-hmm. Not really necessarily. I think she's good. She's really funny in the movie. But as kind of a legacy thing, I'm really happy with that. Her speech was really great. I didn't expect her to go up there and basically just talk about Corey from Halloween Ends for 5 to 6 minutes, just really going on and on about working with Corey.
Well, the one thing I took away from her speech, Brent, is we won. Because she kept saying like, she kept saying we won to her team. And then she was like, people who love genre. And I was like, that's us.
That is us. Did you go outside this? Was there an Oscar on your doorstep?
Let's just say on my IMDb, there's now a won an Oscar because
won an Oscar on
it says shared with Jamie Lee Curtis and all people who like genre.
What if you see that statistic on her IMDb? You have an IMDb?
I do, but don't look at my star meter because I'm embarrassed of how low it is.
Oh, you know who I bet is higher than you? I'm just looking at my cup.
Oh no!
Up there.
You think that Piacon who also, James Cameron, Tom Cruise didn't go to the Oscar. Piacon also avoided the Oscars this year.
Thought they were going to bring him on stage, and
what a coward! Piacon just didn't want to address the stories that are going. I'm just kidding. I don't want to cancel Piacon. He did nothing wrong. Piacon did nothing wrong.
Into that movie canceled. That's kind of his whole story.
That's true. He did. He might have committed a murder.
That's right. Yeah.
But Jamie Lee Curtis.
Yeah. But good win. Happy for her. Her speech was really touching and just like, I just think like, I guess I'm honing in on what I specifically mean when I'm talking about like the positivity and like love that you could feel in this Oscar ceremony. And I think all of that, 90% of it is just like beaming out of the Everything Everywhere cast and crew. Just like they bring so much like happiness and like joy. Joy is the thing that like I really felt was like on display at this Oscars. And it was just really cool to see. So I mean, I'm happy for Jamie Lee Curtis winning too.
Let's talk. Speaking of people who were really happy to have won, let's talk about some of the craft stuff. I guess we'll kick it off with Sarah Polley, who I think is in that category. I think everyone was really rooting for her. She won Best Adapted Screenplay for Women Talking, an award that I thought she was going to win handedly until All Quiet on the Western Front won so much early on in the show. And I was like, oh my God, Sarah Paul is about to lose Best Adapted Screenplay. But she did win. Yeah. She was able to talk a little bit about Women Talking. And I think honestly, I think I texted y'all, adapted screenplay and original screenplay, the best, my favorite, and I like the least disappointing genre or category at the Oscars every year. You know, Best Picture sometimes is wild, but you could always count on original screenplay or adapted, one of those or both of those, to, you know, handily give out an award to someone who made a really original work or did a, you know, something really unique with an adaptation.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and I was just reminded of that kind of we're gonna do another episode for the Patreon that's like
Ooh, good plug.
Oscar themed,
Yeah.
and I was looking at some of the wins for writers in the last like 10, 20 years, and yeah, it's there's some really, really cool wins, man. Like you're totally right, especially original screenplay is just like banger after banger. And Green Book's in there too. But
You have a big you don't like Green Book, huh? Not
listen,
a big Green
I
Book.
like the scene when he folds the pizza in half and eats it. That's a good scene.
Okay.
But yeah, no, but it was really cool that she won. She's I haven't seen enough of her stuff. I still haven't seen Women Talking. I need to. But listen, Take This Waltz slaps. That's a great movie. And so I'm happy that she won. Yeah, I need to watch more of her stuff for sure.
Speaking of Sarah Polley winning, and my concern after All Quiet did so well, which, you know, it's a All Quiet on the Western Front is a solid movie. A solid, I think, reframing of the original. But All Quiet on the Western Front did really, really well. And my assumption is it kind of maybe elbowed out Elvis and Babylon from everything that they were in contention for, because All Quiet on the Western Front won Best Production Design, Best International Film, which we thought it was going to win, but it also won Best Score and Best Cinematography. But yeah, All Quiet, very powerful performance as the number 2 most awarded movie of the year. And part of me thinks like maybe it's because Netflix didn't have like they could literally focus all their money on one movie and said, hey, All Quiet is our movie of the year.
Guess that's interesting, because I know that we talked about that months ago. We were like, oh, what is Netflix going to put their money behind? And I guess it ended up being All Quiet and a little bit, and then Pinocchio kind of like
took a bunch of that,
his little puppet way in there.
You didn't really need much to promote Pinocchio. You had Guillermo del Toro out there, and
chatting up everybody,
which was awesome. He was waiting in the wings, and he got like his second or third Oscar just off of the animated.
Third, because he got director, picture,
and writer. And that's actually crazy, because that's a lot of categories to have won an Oscar. It's like animated and live action normally doesn't cross paths, but for Guillermo del Toro, it kind of does.
I wonder if anybody's ever gotten animation and director before.
I bet if it's happened, it's only like someone from the 50s, like someone from when
it's like Walt Disney.
Yeah,
Mickey Mouse and Sound of Music. That's not Disney.
But you know, back to our Netflix thing. Netflix, I think, and we might have predicted this last year, had White Noise and Bardo from 2 like Oscar-ish directors, did not do as well. So they ended up with All Quiet, which was kind of a surprise and an acquisition for them. And I think it really paid off. I know you're a big, like, you're not a Babylon head, but you you enjoyed the craft of Babylon when it comes to the score and like the costumes and stuff like that.
Yeah. And I really I appreciate the audacity of that movie. And would have loved to see it rewarded in more ways. But yeah, I think Justin Hurwitz is like, I don't know, probably the most talented composer working this side of like John Williams now, like, and Ludwig is quickly climbing those ranks too. But like every movie that comes out with a score by him, it's like fresh and original and energetic, and like the melodies specifically are something that he's incredible at. And listen, I think the score for All Quiet is really cool and has some really interesting stuff. But like, oh man, I wanted Babylon to get it at least. You know, that thing. If not production design, I think the production design is more unique and interesting for Babylon than like All Quiet, although it is a very beautifully like constructed movie for sure. But yeah, that's what I think.
The thing that I think we both underestimated was, or maybe overestimated, was Elvis, because not only is Baz Luhrmann makes these giant movies that have a ton of craft in them. So we thought it was going to get costume design, makeup. It's going to just production design. I had Austin Butler winning, but it got shut out completely. And it may be just because it, came out a little while ago and maybe didn't perform overseas as well
Yeah,
as it should have. Definitely not as much as All Quiet on the Western Front. But one of the things that lost was costume design, which went to Ruthie Carter, who is now the only Black
yeah,
woman to have won 2 Oscars, and kind of has solidified herself as one of these like perennial costume designers. And there's quite a few. There's a couple of them, but it's
yeah.
also really impressive that she was honored for the both Black Panther movies. And the
Mm,
fact I think that people saw these movies and the amount of creativity and I think influences in these movies, and her starting from basically zero to create like a wardrobe for Wakanda,
yeah,
a wardrobe for Talokan, and then after watching like Black Panther Wakanda Forever, there's a lot of when they're in the United States, Shuri's wearing like a very fashion forward outfit. She's not doing like a like there's some like really fashionable
yeah.
modern stuff that everyone is wearing too. And I wonder if people just saw that and was like, Ruthie Carter has the ability in one movie to do 3 or 4 different things and not
Yeah,
just like all era clothes or like all from
yeah.
one period.
Exactly. I think the Black Panther movies are an incredible display of like incredible work of like imagination and originality, and also realizing on screen like concepts like Afrofuturism and stuff like that really haven't been done in like a live action way in a lot of senses yet. So yeah, I mean it I'm really happy with that win. I who did we predict for costumes?
We both picked Elvis,
Mm,
which would have been an interesting thing. But I also feel like when we talk about shifting voters, Ruthie Carter winning makes me feel like people really wanted originality, because Elvis had a lot of costumes, but there were a lot of replications from like Elvis stock photos or
yeah,
historical stuff, which is impressive and hard to do. But maybe they were like, well, Ruthie Carter had to make a Atlantean or a Talokan
yeah.
outfit out of nothing.
She
Like,
had to figure out the fucking little foot
yeah,
wings.
she
Like she
didn't
had to.
get she didn't get like a picture of Elvis when he was 62 or
Well,
something.
yeah, right. You know what I was just thinking about too when we were talking about Elvis and Babylon is like I wonder if those cannibalized each other in some capacity,
Yeah,
because like both of those are like these frenzied, energetic, maximalist period
yeah,
entertainer kind of focused things,
yeah,
and it's I don't know. And like, I think both of them, in terms of production design and production of costumes, are great in kind of similar ways. So I wonder if like they kind of cannibalized each other, and then like All Quiet, got the bump, or
yeah.
Black Panther or Wakanda Forever got the bump.
One
So
of the few places too. I think Everything Ever All at Once was nominated here and didn't win. So kind of a
great
crazy.
costumes. Yeah, and that
Um,
too.
okay, let's talk about some big budget stuff, because
Big boys.
a lot of big budget movies were nommed, and I would say maybe 3 of the biggest movies of the year. Yeah, one here. So best visual effects went to Avatar: The Way of Water. That one, I mean, what can we even say? I mean, that movie
Yeah, I mean, if
is
if it
visual
went to
effects.
anything else, like, listen, there were some incredible visual
Yeah.
effects, but it's like you're coming at the
You're
king.
coming, you're
Like,
coming, you're coming for Avatar? No way,
there's
Jose.
no fucking way. Like, yeah. So just yeah,
Just
not surprising.
and then my assumption, of course, is Avatar 3 with Michelle Yeoh in it. Also probably wins this award. Like Avatar is another level
Yeah.
of visual stuff.
The
So
only thing I can think is
I'm gonna say Dune.
Yeah, but that's coming out in a different year. So
Oh,
Dune's probably
alternate.
just going to sweep the VFX.
So this is an alternating thing where Avatar wins one, Dune will win
Avatar,
one,
Dune.
Avatar, Dune. That's like your dream, actually, I think.
It kind of is, yeah. Put Pycon in Dune. He won't survive long on
Oh,
Arrakis,
yeah.
but-
Best sound went to Top Gun Maverick. I was a little worried here too because it was a little shaky, but Top Gun Maverick, officially an Oscar-winning movie now, even though Tom Cruise also didn't, he didn't show up, but the movie had great sound. What can we say?
Incredible sound.
Incredible
We talked
sound.
about our favorite sounds.
Yeah. No need to make any more sounds.
As I do it. Yeah, very I mean, you see that movie in IMAX and you're like, Jesus, this is a fucking roller coaster of a movie. Like it takes you on a ride on just an audio level too. So yeah.
And then the third big movie, I think, in terms of spreading the wealth towards these big blockbuster hit movies, RRR won best original song for Natu Natu, and there was a Natu Natu performance. God. And I was, I was kind of upset because there was a video online of Rajamouli, the director of RRR, watching the performance, and they sat him in the back row of the whole theater.
Oh,
he's not nominated, so maybe they were like, all the nom people get up here. Kind of disrespectful, in my opinion. Yeah. Also disrespectful. It's maybe a broader thing, but RRR didn't get nommed for international film. Neither did Triangle of Sadness or Decision to Leave, but whatever. But what do you think about the RRR performance? Were you dancing in your living room?
Yeah. I mean, listen, Natu starts playing. I get on my feet. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. Like, holy shit, dude. Like they brought the fucking house down. That performance was so good. That song is such a banger. Like the presenter said before they did the performance.
Yeah.
It was so good. They didn't have the actors doing it, but I get it. It was like, they wanted some professional dancers.
And my assumption is movie magic played a part in what we saw. Does that make sense? Like,
I mean, if at the very least, I mean, that was an edited scene and it wasn't just like
it's hard as hell. Look at that dance. Watch the dance. It's hard to do it.
But it's just like, oh my God. It got me so hyped, dude. It's so good.
Very cool. Do you think it was much better than We Don't Talk About Bruno? From last I don't want to besmirch anything. Never mind.
Yes.
Let's talk about some of the other
Bruno's
wins. Well, let's talk doc and shorts. Navalny won. Navalny's wife and children were there, which was wild.
Did they? What was I doing when Navalny won? I wasn't watching for some reason.
Well, and you're also pro Russia, right? Like you're not.
Well, yeah,
you turned it off.
I took a stance and I turned it off and I said a prayer to Vladimir himself.
Oh boy, Vlad
himself. No, that's it. Hey, I predicted it.
You did.
And I'm happy that it won. That movie is nuts. That's cool that his wife and kids were there. God, we got to get that fucking guy out of jail, dude. It's
let's get him out of jail, people.
Let's you and I. Let's the interview.
I can fix it. Navalny won best doc in terms of shorts. The Boy, the Mole, the Fox, and the Horse won. So Apple TV
Which
Plus.
One?
That's the animated short film based on the book.
The boy or the horse?
The Boy, the Mole, and the Fox won. The Horse was snubbed.
Wow.
Effed up. But that movie won. Apple Plus won another Oscar. Apple TV Plus after their Coda win last year. Neither of us got the best documentary short because it went to The Elephant Whisperer, which, look, I watched that after we did our predictions and I would have voted for it, but part of me was like, am I just a sap for animal stuff? Because these people are taking care of an orphaned elephant, and that may be kind of like low-hanging fruit, but it worked. Like people loved it. Yeah, I was like, it's not that complicated a concept that if you're nice to like animals, and they kind of take care of you, that is heartwarming. We'll see what happens next year. We got to do it. We have to make a documentary. What animals do you have access to, Brent? Got a couple of roaches.
There's a skunk who keeps like wandering outside my apartment. Let's
win the Oscar next year.
The skunk sniffers. You and I try to befriend a skunk without getting sprayed.
It's more about us imparting our own feelings and emotions on an animal that has no fucking idea.
Yeah, kind of a reverse Pepe Le Pew.
Yeah.
Flipping
Okay.
it back on Pepe now.
So now you're horny.
First guy.
You're horny
Yeah,
and
never mind.
canceled.
Let's
Yeah.
scrap it. Fuck the whole
So
idea.
you got
Throw it
cut
out.
out of Space Jam, huh? Best live action short. You got this for the Irish Goodbye. Great win for them. They got to sing Happy Birthday to
That was really, really sweet. Yeah.
them. But let's go to the totals. So that's the totals here. We predicted these Oscars. I think we did pretty good. I think I might have done better last year, but there was a little more competition this year. You got a total of 16 of your Oscar predictions correct out of 23. That's pretty darn good.
Hey, not bad. That's like a C. That's like my college average.
And then I got 15 out of the 23. So you had you had one more than me. But I think overall we did pretty darn good in terms of like, and you know what I should have done is there are Vegas odds on some of these on kind of sports betting apps. Look, we don't advertise legal gambling or anything or illegal gambling, but maybe we should have seen how much money you would have won for getting 16 out of 23 correct.
Yeah, I mean that's a good idea. I'm sorry, I'm just distracted. I had to pull up the Applebee's menu to see what steaks.
Okay, I forgot. I forgot about this. We said whoever got the most would get some steaks.
I'm not gonna hold you to that because that was
Brent, I will send you a steak. You're gonna take a picture. You can put it online. Is it your choice what steak, or is it my choice what steak?
Honestly, your choice. Get me the tiniest, shittiest fucking.
I'm gonna get something that definitely doesn't travel well, like a steak that is hard. I'm gonna get super well done. Yeah.
Yeah, just a well done beef.
I'm gonna get you one of those steak of the month subscriptions where you think like, oh, it's a value, and then they send you like a hamburger patty.
The trunk to this guy and just fucking.
I have done that. I've gone to one of these. There's like a truck that'll be by the gym that's like, hey, 20 steaks for $20.
No,
and I'm like, huh. Let me take a peek, see. And they're all like saran wrapped steaks.
That's human meat. There's
probably not good value. But that's what we'll do.
There's no way that's beef, that you ate beef.
I ate beef. It's some kind of meat. Yeah. So any final thoughts on this year's Oscars, Brent?
God, I guess we did cover everything. I mean, less us trying to talk around some big event that we don't want to like have the bad take on. This was like just a pretty straightforward, I think really enjoyable, classically too long Oscars. It was almost 4 hours.
It was.
But I didn't mention him, but I thought Kimmel did like a solid job. Most of the jokes were fine. There was a pretty great who's the guy that just passed away? Robert Blake.
Yeah.
The Robert Blake joke I thought was pretty fun.
He had some like sharp jokes, to be honest with you.
Yeah, there were some like some
they
weren't
all like, light and stuff. But I thought that was good. I mean,
yeah, it's good to kind of walk that line. It's when you could tell he started riffing that it was like, Jimmy, let's rein it in. But
and also like, I think they should just straight up stop trying to do crowd work at the Oscars. There's no need for you to be in the crowd and like terrorize the guests.
Just go to a commercial, show a clip of another movie.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I thought it was honestly probably like my favorite Oscars since
last year.
One.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, because some of the more recent Oscars, like they had great wins, don't get me wrong, but there were like weird wins, weird moments. And this one felt like very well produced in a way that they haven't in a while. Like I'd say probably my favorite since the Parasite one in 2016.
Yeah.
No,
it wasn't 2016. Maybe like 18 or something.
Oh, it was pre-COVID, so it was 2020.
I agree. It was a solid Oscars. There was nothing over the top in a positive or negative way. There wasn't like a moment where you were like, "Oh my god, can you believe they pulled that off?" But at the same time, there was nothing where they were like, "Oh my god, did you this shit's crazy." I enjoyed I think the celebration of films, I'm glad as hell that they brought back montages. I don't know why they got rid of them to begin with. And there were a lot of these montages that were just the best moments of the movies, which for me is a small thing, but was like, thank God someone actually
Yeah.
watched the movies and thought, well, this should be the scene from To Leslie.
Their
Or this
clip
should be
isn't the
this.
scene. It's like
Yeah.
a montage of clips
Which is
of them. Yeah.
awesome. And I think great, because you need to showcase that and not just have, and maybe a weird small thing, but the graphics were good on stage. I kind of, sometimes it got a little weird. We did get a little glimpse of the whale for the best
Ooh,
makeup.
that was unfortunate.
And I was like, damn, that's a 70-foot tall
it's a big boy up there.
Fraser with some like
Yeah.
prosthetics on, which is wild. But generally the rest of them were cool and dynamic. And it's maybe just a change. And I did think they played some people off. It's kind of ridiculous. That's why don't they just like earmark 4 hours or some shit? You know, like even though they're it looks like they earmark 3.5 with knowing they're gonna go over. And I'm like, what's the point of that? Like, it's kind of like telling someone to show up at 7:30 because you know they're gonna be late. The meeting actually starts at 8. At some point, you're just like, come on, like just
I feel like
it for 8.
Yeah, there's I think other stuff you could trim before. And that being said, I think it was a lot better this year, like noticeably better than years past, where it was just so egregious. But there was still some unfortunate, like I was joking at the beginning, like the second person goes to talk and said,
"Oh, it happened a lot.
We want to thank our family," and it's just like, Jesus, okay.
And then I mean, maybe it's because they're big awards, but sometimes they'd also just let it ride. They were like, okay, let this guy talk about
some of the, I mean,
whatever.
Frasier and like, you know, the Daniels got to kind of talk and stuff. But
I kind of like, I don't want to go too far into, obviously Everything Everywhere at Once did great, but I was really happy that everyone that won for Everything Everywhere, the actors, the Daniels, but also like the editor, like everyone was just very much appreciative of the journey, and everyone just felt so like honest and down to earth that it was almost jarring to have someone who didn't have like a pre-prepared thing where they're going to thank all their reps and all this, like, you know, whatever. And it was like the editor is like, this is my second movie, and he's like, honestly, like, even if we didn't win, I love you guys, I'll work with you still. And
it felt like,
and I was like, god damn, like, this is weird. The freaking the songwriters for RRR sang a Carpenter song on stage, and I was like, this is nice. They're being honest.
It's just a bunch of like earnest, talented people that love movies, and you could just feel that. Like all the Everything Everywhere winners felt like, and I mean this in the good way of this, because it could be bad too, but they felt like film Twitter people, like that like love movies and then like won for their thing, and they're like up there all excited. And it's just a great vibe this year. For sure, that it's going to be hard to repeat unless like we get a really cool run of like original upcoming writer directors who start winning Oscars now. I don't know.
It might happen. Before we leave, Brent, kind of going to spring this question on you. Of all of the people that were nominated that didn't win, who do you think gets an Oscar next? So from the people that didn't win, is it Austin Butler?
Wait, that
haven't won, because there were a lot of first time noms this year. Who do you think do you think it's, I was gonna say who hasn't won, like John Williams? Do you think he'll finally get one? I'm just kidding. Diane Warren, I guess, counts, but like anyone that you think is gonna be like kind of a perennial, this kind of a start for them?
I honestly think Colin Farrell. Like Colin Farrell he's on a fucking run, dude. Like his year is absolutely
Penguin.
Between Penguin, which is an amazing performance, After Yang, Banshees, and then he has one other one that I'm forgetting, but he had another movie too. I can't remember what it is. But yeah,
you're not talking about Penguin.
No, maybe it's just those three. But I feel like he is overdue, and he feels like he's like in the pocket, man. Like he works with McDonough again, which I'm sure he will, or like, I don't know, some great director. He'll get in there.
I think Stephanie Hsu or I guess even Hong Chow, like those two seem primed to win. Paul Mescal is in Gladiator 2, though, and I think that's going to be wild. The Ridley Scott movie.
He is such a good actor, dude. Like, you should really watch Normal People, because that's one of those performances where you're like, oh, I don't know who this guy is, but I'm going to be seeing him in everything from here on out because he's so good. Yeah.
But we'll see. Well, thanks so much for listening to us talk about something that happened last night. Or maybe 2 nights ago, depending on when you hear it. And let us know what you think. Head to @DelphinPod. And you know what? @Screenslush now. It's got its own Twitter. And definitely subscribe to the Patreon for exclusive stuff there. And we're on podcasts now. We're on all the podcast apps. So you will be talking about other non-Oscar movie stuff online too. But Brent, what do you have to plug?
I mean, pretty much the Delphin Pod Patreon, all the Delphin Pod shows that aren't even, just ones on Patreon. Just search Delphin Pod on podcatchers.
Oh,
is that
wow.
what people call them? Ugh.
No, podcast apps.
Why did I say that? Podcatcher. Gross. Delete this. Everybody, turn it off. Go listen to all that stuff. We have a show called Screenslush.
Yeah, you're listening to it now. So
yeah, you're listening to it now. That we talk about a lot of times. We talk about like new movies, new shows we're watching, old movies, old shows, just all sorts of stuff. So check that out.
Yep. Thanks so much for listening. We'll be back next week for another app. Bye bye. Hold on. Do we have play out music yet?
PyCon's coming in.
Nope. That's clapping. We'll use that.